Hello, welcome back to Zentangle Explore. I am so excited to see you, whether you are here live with me now or maybe watching this on the replay sometime in the future. So my name is Esther Piszczek. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, and this is a class where we draw one Zentangle pattern really, really slowly. And we explore it in your way, however you want to explore it. And you will need just a couple pieces of paper that you can fit in the palm of your hand. This is watercolor paper that I have, but even if you just have copy paper or even an envelope, that will be just fine. And a pen. I have a couple things here. I have a 01 Micron. I have a felt tip Sharpie. And if you just have a regular ballpoint off your desk, that is perfect too. So we start every class with some just slow breathing, just to bring ourselves into a space where we can actually draw slow lines. And you can do that with me if you'd like. Just get nice and comfortable in your seat. You can close your eyes if you'd like. I'm going to close mine. Oh, just going to settle in and breathe just for a few minutes. Perhaps just bring your attention from wherever it might be wandering in the world. Just feel it coming back, 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 all the way back to the top of your head. And allow it to just settle, settle, settle into your body. As your attention comes back, as it settles in the body, you may feel your body just gently relaxing, even just in the smallest of ways, a releasing of tension, a dropping of shoulders, a slight heaviness in your bottom of your legs if you're sitting, or your feet, or your hands if they're resting on the lap or the desk, or wherever they might be. And perhaps welcome that relaxation, welcome that little bit of heaviness, that awareness coming into the parts of your body, the places that they're touching, and your beautiful breath. Maybe find that breath, the inhale, bringing in of oxygen from the outside to nourish our blood and our bones and our cells. And at the top of the inhale, there's a little baby rest, just a time to turn the corner and invite all of the oxygen, not the oxygen, we're going to keep the oxygen, all of the carbon dioxide, everything that's no longer needed, to gently leave with a nice release in the exhale. And a little rest at the bottom before the breath starts over. Just allowing that breath to be exactly as it is, and just notice, just the noticing of the breath, the observing, the witnessing is enough to make subtle changes and perhaps make it more comfortable, more pleasant. A deeper inhale, a more full exhale, allowing the breath to be the simple cycle that it is, nourishing and rejuvenating, inviting, releasing, allowing. And if you're ready, let's take a big inhale together. And a nice sighing exhale, making noise if you like. Ah. allowing that sound to vibrate through your chest. Calm the nervous system. One more big inhale together. A nice full exhale. Oh. Welcoming the sound of your voice because it is uniquely yours and nobody else's. And that sound is nowhere else in the universe but with you. And one last big inhale together. And a final exhale together. Ah. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, knowing that everything that we draw together will be perfect just as it is. Okay, thank you so much. It's so helpful to me, and I know it's helpful in general to slow down before drawing. All right, I'm going to change my camera and we will draw. All right, so we have a couple of pieces of watercolor paper here that you can just hold in the palm of your hand, and this is so that you can draw more than one. You can start a new little drawing if you like. I have a 01 Micron. I have a Sharpie felt tip. But if you just have your ballpoint pen, that is totally perfect. And then I also brought some highlighters of different colors today because I'm always encouraging people to use highlighters on envelopes and to draw. And so I thought I should actually do some myself and show you how easy it is. And if you have highlighters, great. If you just have another color pen, great. If you don't have any color at all, if you just have a pencil, great. And if you just have your regular pen, that's perfect too. Don't worry about going to get anything. This drawing today just invites a bit of color or some sort of contrast. And if you just have a heavier black something, that will be great too. So I'm going to start with my 01 and we're going to draw. This is a pattern called 1+1, and it's by Damy Teng, who is a certified Zentangle teacher. And I'm going to start mine right. Well, let's just do it upright. We're going to start it right in the center here. It starts in a little grid, and we're drawing really slow lines. So slow. So slow that my ink isn't even fully touching the page. Just watching that line. And this line, I notice my line is kind of moving with the texture of my watercolor paper and creating a little bit of a ripple, and I absolutely love that. And my lines aren't the same size, and I love that too. So however your lines are showing up today, just embrace them. So this starts out in a grid, and our basic grid is the tic-tac-toe board. And I'm going to change my paper so I can draw these lines vertically again. And this is a little bit to show you that there's so many different ways to draw the simplest thing. So I didn't need to shift my page, although in Zentangle we do a lot of reorganizing our tile because there's no right or wrong or up or down or anything, and it's easy to draw lines from the most comfortable place. And even though this one's not going to be quite, it's going to be right at the end here. I'm going to add this second line here because it will be easier to show you the full pattern that way. But even drawing just this simple grid, I could have drawn it all from one perspective. I could have shifted it with every line. I could have drawn from this side instead of this side. I could have drawn these from the bottom instead of the top. So there's all kinds of different ways to do the simplest thing. And in a class where it's all about exploring your way to do it, it's nice to notice, well, how am I doing this? How am I drawing this line? From what direction? From what perspective? Can I do it a different way just to do something different to see what that's like? So now we have our grid, a little mesh here, and I'm going to start and just draw along with me for a bit because this is in every other pattern where we do something in every other box. So I'm going to start with a line that just crosses over the edges of this box. And just to show you the pattern, we're going to do that. We're going to skip one of these across, and you have more boxes and you can skip one across. And it just goes over the edge of that box. And because it's in every other, a checkerboard type pattern, when we come down here, we're going to go to the box that isn't yet drawn in. And we're going to do the same thing. This is also a pattern where you could lose track of these lines very easily because they're all in this grid type pattern. But you know that what you did, your lines are just on the outside of these edges. So that's what we're drawing. And then if you'd like, you can change and shift your tile. Actually, I'm going to shift my tile just for fun. And I'm going to draw in each of those boxes in the other direction. So Damy Teng, who created this pattern, said that it was based on embroidery stitches. So this is 1+1. It creates these little pluses, but then they don't need to be just one. You could just draw this pattern this way and modify it from here. Or you can add, I'm going to show you what happens here. If I add 2 lines, and then if I add, or just another line, and then if I add 2 other lines, and you could just let it be like that, 3 with 1, or you could add them here. And so if you add these, I only added these right over the edge, and there's another, if this has another, if I'm drawing the partials here, which is what I can't see, but I know is there, there'll be another one there, and another one here. And if I start to draw these a little bit further into this box, then I end up getting this beautiful little kind of invisible circle here in the middle of these, which is very fun. So you can think about this as just drawing lines, or you can think about it as adding stitches to like a little patchwork quilt. However you'd like to think about your lines, it's up to you. But I think this is so beautiful just the way it is. It's really gorgeous. Just seeing the lines are kind of unexpected. It's a little bit like a mesh screen. They're really fun. So this class is all about exploring and saying, well, how do I take this basic pattern and then explore it? And what are the ways that I can do that? So one of the ways is varying the number of lines. So this could be a double lined grid to begin. Varying the length of lines, varying the direction. Do they have to be straight lines? They could be curved lines. Does the grid, maybe the grid is curvy, but the lines here and these little +1 mesh shapes is, or orientation is actually curved and wiggly, or straight with a wiggly grid and wiggly with a straight grid. Maybe there's lots and lots of lines. Maybe my grids overlap. I'm going to overlap my grid here and go off the page. Maybe all the grid lines are not the same length. Maybe they're not the same width apart. However you want to explore this is up to you. We just look at what the components are, and then you can do whatever you like with them. So the components are a line that comes through this little box in one direction and a line that comes through in the other direction. And then that happens in every other box. So simple. And if, this pattern goes every other box, but what if you did it in every box? What if you did it in every third box? That is absolutely another way to explore. And in exploration, there's no wrong way to do it. So perhaps allow yourself to say every single one of these is absolutely the way it is meant to be. Because that's how it happened right now. So there's not a lot of black or grounding in this, and you can ground by adding more lines, obviously, or you can just allow this pattern to do what it's doing without being concerned about that. I'm going to start another one over here. I'm really liking this diagonal thing. And I could kind of join those two together, but I'm not going to. I don't want to. And I get to choose whether I want to or I don't want to, which is a really lovely thing about exploring. I get to do whatever I want. I'm going to play with the size of the grid. And it just occurred to me, and I love when that happens, how inspiration just strikes as you're drawing a line, and then I see the line a little bit differently and going, oh, what would happen if I did that? Which I'm not going to do right now, but I'm going to try it as soon as this one is completed. So I'm playing with the width of the grid right now. These don't have to be, they don't have to be perpendicular lines. They can be slanted, they can be completely wonky, because we're just adding these little +1 strokes, 1 + 1. They can be however you want them to be. And every other box, beautiful little plus. And of course we can do multiple lines. This is I made my grid really skinny here, so I'm going to do one line in this one, but you can double those up like I did in the original. So here it was every other, but I didn't do every other. And now we know what that looks like. We have a box here with nothing in it at all. So what if I say, because it's an exploration, what if I say, I'm going to add this here. I guess that's how it's supposed to be anyway. And every other. I just drew my bottom ones first, top, bottom, skipping that middle one. Okay, so the idea that I had, I draw now. These don't have to go all the way across the page, although they can. So what if I drew my grid where my lines are radiating instead of perpendicular, not perpendicular, but instead of, like vertical, completely vertical or completely horizontal. And now I get to decide what this line does. And this line wants to curve just because I thought, what if this was a curved line? And this is an exploration, so I get to explore what would this pattern look like if I have these radiating lines and a curved line. Because the pattern's so simple, it's going to be really easy to explore this new way of drawing it. And I don't have to stop in the start in the top left corner. I can start wherever I want with this pattern once I know what the pattern is. So we're just drawing these lines over top. I'm going to squiggle mine. You guys do whatever you'd like to do. Say, well, what if your lines only go in one direction and not, maybe there's no cross lines? What'd that look like? You can find out. The nice thing about drawing lines is that you can choose not to draw a particular line. And then you have a black pen. I always tell my students, your black pen is your friend. Since there's no erasing in Zentangle, at least in traditional Zentangle, and I am a Zentangle purist, so there's no erasing ever for any reason. If I don't like what it looks like, I can go back and add more black lines. And I also love about this class is that there are live students behind every one of these classes. And we share at the end. And everybody gets to see what everybody else has done. And it's always so fascinating to see what beautiful inspiration has occurred for somebody else while I've been off doing whatever I'm doing on my tile. They're doing something really different and super cool on their tile. And even if I say, well, I wouldn't have thought to do that, I can appreciate that it was another idea, another bit of inspiration. Like if we think of inspiration just moving through the ether, through the air around us, like snowflakes, and sometimes a snowflake drops on your jacket or your pants, and sometimes it drops on somebody else's. And each one perhaps contains a different bit of information, a different perspective, different way of thinking about something. And then because we're human and we share with each other, then even though that bit of inspiration didn't land on my jacket and I didn't get the idea to do whatever it is with my lines, somebody else did. And because we're sharing with each other, then that inspiration comes to me through that other person's drawing. And so it's like, I don't know, a highway of inspiration. It's such a cool thing to think about in that way, because it means that nothing is ever wasted, and it encourages us to continue to share and interact with each other, which is a really valuable part of being human, in my opinion. Life would be pretty boring if I was just stuck with my own ideas, my own bits of inspiration that landed on my jacket as a snowflake. That's why it's always so fun and amazing and fascinating to me. And I never get tired of having students come to this class and share with me, because everything they've done is something that I hadn't thought of. And even if they're picking up on some of the things that I've done, like the way I draw the grid or a way that I'm exploring, and they're doing something similar, it's never ever the same. So they take whatever it is that I was inspired to do, and they make it their very own. And then because of that, I have a new way of looking at it and thinking about it. It's extraordinary, really. And I think that's how evolution is. If somebody, watching the Olympics lately, if somebody does a trick on a snowboard, and somebody else watches and says, oh, well, what if I did that just a little bit differently and tweak it? And before you know it, they've tweaked it in such a way that it's a brand new trick that no one's ever done before. And it all happens because we interact with each other, and we watch, and we're curious, and we're adventurous. We want to try new things and do new things. It's truly extraordinary. And it really all comes from exploring. You could taste a new drink or something and say, oh, well, what if I added this different flavor to it? Sprinkle it in and say, oh my gosh, that's a brand new drink. That's something that other people might enjoy. I'm going to make this for my friends. I'm going to see if they like it. Oh my gosh, they like it too. What if I take it to the farmer's market? What if other people like it? And all of a sudden, you've started a cottage industry. That's a brand new thing that just came to you because you were at a party and you said, hey, what if this was a little bit different? That's extraordinary. And this really can become just a meditation of drawing lines that cross over each other, just to see what happens when that happens and where they might go. Now, in a pattern where there isn't a lot of black or a lot of grounding like this one, you can add black. And I'm going to play with just adding little bits of, well, little dots, I suppose, is one way to do this. Wasn't entirely my idea, but now I'm going to go with it. I like the idea, instead of adding this a little bit of weighting to this line, just little kind of nodules here and there. You'll notice if you play around with adding a little bit of black or a little bit of color somewhere that it doesn't take very much. You can just add this tiniest little bit. These little cross spaces, these little squares are lovely places to add black. Of course, rounding is always a beautiful thing where you just fill in the little bits of corners of where these lines meet. And you could literally draw one tile of just this pattern like we started in the beginning here, and then play around with all kinds of different ways of adding creative black, and that can be your exploration. Just varying that line width just the tiniest little bit, and see how that changes what the pattern looks like. Knowing that whatever you do is the right thing to do. And I love that about this class. There's no wrong way to do this. So no matter what line shows up on your page, you can say, oh, it's an exploration. That was the next perfect line. Even if you absolutely loathe that line, you can say that was the next perfect line, because now I'm never going to draw that line again. Or I'm going to draw that line and I'm going to change it. Or it was the best line and I hope I can draw it again. I'm going to try to draw it again. That's just the beauty of exploring. And this pattern really lends itself to playing with length and width of line and space. Just to see what happens. Sometimes it's very easy to hold our lines very precious. And I always had a hard time drawing over different things and maybe being a little bit messy. And I'm noticing that it's coming very easily in this pattern right now to draw over what I drew before. Say, what happens if these interact in a way that is unexpected? And if I draw this really small, am I still able to continue with the pattern? And the answer is yes, I am. Because it's really the essence of the pattern that we're going for, not, it doesn't have to be the complete pattern, but the idea of the pattern. And it's not about whether or not you like the outcome, but can you value the information that that outcome brings you? It's all about valuing it and bringing meaning to it. See, this is something I never drew before, and I wouldn't have thought to draw, but for this line showing up on my page, that has great value. I find that when I draw in this way, everything I draw becomes important. Even if I never want to draw that particular line again. There's rarely a line I draw that I don't want to draw again, because lines are just ridiculously fun to draw. And I would imagine that you kind of feel the same way if you were drawing in this class, either with me or on the replay, there's just something about drawing lines that is so relaxing and meditative and intriguing, fascinating. Because there's never a line that's drawn by hand that will ever be drawn again in exactly that way. It's like a historical moment that is recorded on the page by your hand, doing whatever it's doing in this very moment. And it can't be repeated. And that alone makes every line important and valuable and special and unique. And so I can also draw a grid within a grid. I don't know if I'll love this idea, but I'm going to try it because it just occurred to me to do it. Just breathing and drawing really slow lines. It's when I get excited about a new idea that I really have to slow myself down. It's okay if this idea unfolds slowly. It doesn't need to race onto the page. I can allow myself, I can gift myself the time to appreciate what my lines look like before putting more lines on the page. Just every so often coming back to your breath, saying, "Hello, breath. Welcome to this moment." Let's just be together for a moment, allowing your attention to pay attention to what it feels like to breathe in your body at this moment. And every line that you draw is an opportunity to look at this pattern with a new eye. And I think that when we, at least for me, if I look at something and I only see the same thing every time, then I can easily become bored and say, well, I'm just always looking at the same things. How boring is it to draw the same thing over and over again? When we take into account the different intersections of the lines, the width of the lines, the flavor and tone and texture of the lines, and we say, well, what if I varied just that little tiny little bit? What if I just did the tiniest little thing and then looked at the whole? And then it occurs to me that how could I ever get bored drawing this? There's just so many, an infinite number of ways to modify this and to see it differently. And every time I see it differently, it's like looking at it for the first time. So I often find that in life, feel myself getting a little bit bored or feeling like things are mundane and say, well, how can I look at this from a new perspective? I think that in modern life, we have so many conveniences and they're just readily available. And we never think about what it would be like if we didn't have that thing. Like last night, the town had to fix a, I don't know, fire hydrant or something. And so there was a water outage. And so from 5 till midnight, we weren't going to have any access to water, no flushing of toilets, no washing of hands. And so I stockpiled some drinking water and some washing water. And my husband and I decided to go out to dinner. And it was so delightful. Came home and the crews were still working. So I thought that we wouldn't have water. And my husband turned it on and it worked. It's like, oh, fantastic. Running water. What must it have been like back in the times before there was running water in the house in the winter in Duluth? It must have been quite the experience. I'm glad that's not my daily experience. But having the water go out for even a short period of time made me really appreciate the fact that I have running water every day. The toilet's flush. I was just visiting my dad. There's a problem with the septic. And so there's a porta potty and the toilets do not flush. And it really brings you into appreciation. I go to a restaurant over there or somewhere else and say, oh my gosh, the toilet's flush. I get to come home and the toilet flushes. I don't have to go outside to use the bathroom outside at, you know, midnight or 3 a.m. Shifts perspective. And every single line that we draw that's new and different, whether we like it or not, is an opportunity to shift perspective and to appreciate what came before. And that is a big reason I love drawing this way. I don't play around with any type of color, but I'm going to just now, just by doing a little bit of highlighter on my grid here, just to see what it looks like. Subtle color really does not take much. Okay, these are my explorations. This has been super, super fun. Thank you so much for drawing with me. I love it, love it, love it, love it, whether you are here live or on the replay. So thank you so much. You can continue to draw this pattern for the next week, or you can allow it to take you into brand new spaces and places, depending on whatever happens as you're drawing. And add it to envelopes and grocery lists and doodle pages and wherever you'd like to draw it. Share it with others. So you can donate to this class if you'd like at paypal.me/eternalpossibility. You can find more of my work at eternalpossibility.com. And I hope that you come to draw with me again, whether live or on the replay. So happy drawing, everyone.